I've recently returned from a trip to Brick World Chicago, and I want to build my own custom LEGO creations. And believe it or not, those two events are completely unrelated. Hello all, I'm Josh, this is Josh Build Stuff, and today's video will not be my usual video. That's because it will not have as much of the, effort. Believe it or not, my usual videos actually take a fair amount of work, but hey, when you go against the grain, like in mini golf, things are gonna get a little coarse. I even wrote that line for this video when I had no intention of writing anything for this video. I just wanted to show off some of my own new custom LEGO creations, which you can see in front of me. Why did I build a bunch of little desert island mocks, and why am I making a big deal about it? Well, I built a bunch of little desert island mocks because the new LEGO El Dorado Fortress set just came out, and I wanted some little, ancillary builds, accessories to go along with that build as it was displayed on the shelves as a backdrop behind me, and I'm making a big deal about it because I don't build custom LEGO creations. I'll be using the word mocks because that's what us in the industry say. Mocks refers to my own creation, even though sometimes, like an ATM machine, I'll say I'll build my own mocks, which is my own creations. But redundancy aside, let's address the issue of why I built these little mocks. Here's a glimpse into the mindset of Josh from Josh Build Stuff, which might explain why it takes me so long to make a review, or why there seems to be so much effort going into this thing with so little return. That's basically my mantra. But why did I build all of these things? Well, if you recall, there's the new El Dorado Fortress set that just came out, and in my mind, that makes me go, well, it's a larger set that merits a larger, higher effort review. And so I've got to go to storage and pull out every single nautically themed LEGO set that I have so that I can have them on the shelves as a part of the backdrop while reviewing this set. That also meant repairing or rebuilding a lot of those nautically themed sets because they are prone to unintentional disassembly as they are being moved between multiple storage units. More on that later. But I needed all of those sets to make a good backdrop. I love a good set dressing, second only to a good salad dressing, but we'll talk about that on my Josh Eats Stuff channel. This week we're reviewing the new Wendy's Summer Strawberry Salad. Honestly, it was a delight to rebuild the Black Seas Barracuda, but a large part of me was just happy to see that that globe was still completely assembled. That Earth is a pain to repair, kind of like our own Mother Earth, but we'll talk about my conservation conversation in another video. But in that background, there was some of the worst thing you can possibly have. It's also bad to have in a video. Empty space. And so seeing that empty space on the shelves, I wanted to fill that space with something, and why not build a little something myself to throw in there, something nautically themed, something which I could do because I had pieces at hand and available. If you remember, the Black Seas Barracuda set could be built in two different configurations. One is just a ship on its own, and two is like kind of if the ship had crashed on an island and the pirates built like a big old, pirate base using pieces of the ship. But that also meant I had a bunch of water pieces and sand pieces, palm tree pieces left over, and I said, oh, maybe I'll just build like a little desert island. That'll be fun. And now here we are with 5 separate islands, one of them like a big old pirate base, and each of these islands has like its own little fun story, which we'll get into in a minute. And I realized after building all of these, well, now I want to be a mocker. I want to make my own LEGO creations. All the while this El Dorado Fortress was in the background, I could have just shot the video right then and there, but instead I decided to sit there for 3 to 5 hours playing with these different parts, and a part of me was feeling guilty because I wasn't getting out the video and producing what I felt like I should have been producing, but at the same time I was producing a custom little LEGO build. And I realized that in doing this sort of different creative building process, well, I was really enjoying myself. It's so different than following instructions, which I am just so prone to do. I am by the book, the instruction book, and yet this creativity kind of took over me. Making these videos is my creative outlet right now, but I realized that I still love just playing with LEGO. But here's kind of what I experienced while I was building. At first, it was an issue of logistics, right? It was a logical problem. I needed to find a way to put the limited number of pieces I had together to make something that made sense. I only had so many angled ocean pieces and so many of the curved sand pieces and so many places where I could place a palm tree, and so I had to just figure these things out logically. It was just a logical problem at first. But then once I had some of those logistics figured out, I realized that I wanted to figure out why these little islands existed and why these little pirates or skeletons came to be in the situation that they were in. And I realized that I wanted backstories for all of these people, and it kind of shifted from a logical problem to a creative problem. And I said, well, this little pirate, he must have been digging up a treasure, and then he thought he was digging up a treasure, but it was really just an ancient statue, and he used all his energy and resources on that statue, and now he's doomed to his own fate. Or this little skeleton in the smallest of these builds, it was the final little build that I built. In fact, I built this little build while I should have been filming this very video, but I said, oh, I'll make one more island, because I had this time a story in mind first, and I decided I would make the build based on that story. I just wanted something very simple. There were pirates. They went to an island, they dug up a treasure, there was some level of betrayal, and, you know, the pirates didn't actually get the treasure, but were left with a skeleton kind of resigned to his fate on the island, and you've got, you know, the shovel sticking out of the sand and the map that led them to the treasure in the first place, but now they're just, I don't know, food for the fishes, or the crabs in this case. Some of these mini builds here, obviously you can see they're straight out of Pirates of Barracuda Bay, like this little statue that has been unearthed, that is straight, I didn't make that myself. The rest of the island around it and like the rockwork and tree I added, look at me, I added a tree. I did the rest of that, but I did end up taking some inspiration from that Pirates of Barracuda Bay set, and I said, I'm gonna make a little pirate, I don't know, hideout, a little castaways casa. That's a cool name, Castaway Casa. I ended up with this 3-level docked pier kind of thing. It's kind of, I'm gonna say it's a hideaway. It's a location for this band of pirates to come and stash their treasure and defend it with a little cannon in place. They've got a little rowboat here that'll take them back to their ship. Again, some of these pieces are straight out of Pirates of Barracuda Bay, like little jail cell here, but I had so much fun coming up with this. And again, there's a lot of the logical part of it, trying to figure out like how the pieces will line up, especially when doing these multiple levels and being confined to the size of some pieces, like the stair pieces here. But once all that comes together, you go, what's the story here? Oh, it's the captain. He's got to have a nice place to sit. So I made him this cool crossed oar chair, and then the monkey's got to come along. The parrot's got to be there somewhere, and they need some way to defend their little island. So they stuck a little cannon on that island, you know? So it was this really fun melding of using what I had to create what I wanted. If I had to come up with stories for these other couple, this one with the little imperial skeleton there, he's surrounded by food, but somehow he still managed to starve to death. I think that's because his ship never returned from where it was supposed to be with this dock and stuff. I don't know, I just like little imperial skeleton. This other one we haven't talked about, there's again another skeleton. Clearly this is a shipwreck and he's washed up on this island, and this little skeleton, well, he had some important decisions to make about what would happen on this island, and eventually he decided that help wasn't coming, and so he did what he had to do to what's the opposite of survive. Then the fact that there are also a bunch of sharks in the water, well, that's just decoration, and the fact that my Bricks and Minifigs sells these sharks for only $1 a piece. What are you, not gonna buy 10 sharks at a time? I also thought that'd be fun to just throw on the table among these bunch of islands. And so now that we all understand how and why I've ended up at this point, I have some questions for my fellow mockers out there, because you're now my fellows, because I am now one of you, even though I use some pre-existing builds. Don't judge other people. That's not the mocker mindset, as I've decided it is. I have a couple of follow-up questions that have come from just doing this process. Feel free to answer one or all or none of these questions in the comments down below if you have any insights, and also click that subscribe and like button while you're down there. My first question, when does it end? That's not a big introspective universal question. When does a build end for you? There are no instructions. You never flip the last page. You never use the last piece from the box, because there aren't any box or instructions, grammatics aside. In the web development or project management world, we would call it scope creep, in which case it's easy to kind of throw extra little desires and wants in with the existing feature that you're working on. And I experienced kind of the same thing when I was trying to manage my own projects of these little islands here. And I said, well, I need to be done with these islands because I need to put them on the shelves, but I still had pieces in front of me and ideas in my head, and so there was no stopping point for me. In fact, I made additional trips to my storage units, plural, again, more on that later, because I knew that I had this little Castaway set that it came out last year as a gift with purchase, and I said, that's a good piece set. That's another question coming up. And then I knew that I had a bunch of other pieces that would match this theme, because the only single time that I visited the pab wall before, I said, oh, I'll buy some blue pieces and some sand looking pieces, because if I have a build in mind, it'll probably be nautically related, and those pieces might be useful for me in the future. That's another follow-up question. But the scope crept to a point where I said I have more pieces and I can make more builds, and this video is even going to be delayed by at least a day because I decided to play with pieces more. That kind of actually makes me realize how at these large LEGO conventions you see these enormous environment builds which clearly went through a Mean Girls kind of situation, in which case the limit does not exist. Either these people have a large amount of money or a large amount of space, or usually both, and they can build a giant environment that they're showing off at these conventions because no one told them when to stop. The next question, which I hinted at a second ago, how do you decide if a pab wall is good? For those not in the know, a pab wall is the pick-a-brick wall or the pick-a-build wall, whatever LEGO stores are calling it these days. The wall where there's all the loose LEGO pieces that you put into cups, soon to be boxes, and you buy them by the piece. But every time I visit the LEGO store, I go, I'll walk by the pab wall, because I'll see other creators and they'll say, oh, the pab wall is really good right now, or there's nothing good on the pab wall. And I'll walk by and I will say, I don't understand what's good or bad. Are all you custom creators, do you always have some idea in the back of your mind and you say, well, this, I could definitely use some white masonry bricks for that idea? Or is it kind of the pieces come and the ideas might come later and you say, this could be a useful piece? Obviously snot pieces could be useful, and these neon yellow pieces probably less useful if we're just being completely objective. I'm just wondering what comes first, the chicken, the egg, the cart, the horse, the build idea, or the pieces? Question number 3, which I realize is now somewhat thematically appropriate to my custom little builds here, but how do you resist cannibalizing your own LEGO sets? Speaking as myself, because I don't know how to speak as anyone else, I like to buy and build a lot of new releases. You'll see me tracking new releases, buying new sets, making videos about those new sets, and I tend to keep all of my LEGO sets pretty much complete and put them into my multiple storage units. More on that later. And so I've got this big collection of complete sets, which means I don't have a very large collection of LEGO pieces. But once I had the ideas of these little islands in mind, I started saying, well, there are some good pieces in this set or that set, and I could take some things from that. I even went and built this little Castaway set because I knew it had some nice pieces in it, and it would kind of fit with the sets that I have on my table in front of me now, but I want that set to be together, but I also kind of want to steal some of those palm tree pieces, if you know what I mean. So the question is, how do you manage a piece collection and a new set collection? And here's the final question, which I think is the most important. How do you balance wanting to participate in every aspect of this LEGO hobby? You want to build MOCs, you want to buy new sets, you want to buy some classic sets, you want to be an army builder? How do you find the balance between all of those different aspects? I guess the answer is in the question itself, and I guess I've answered that question before, in that it's just all about balance. Trying to participate in every aspect of this hobby, well, that's gonna be a lot to juggle. I would tend to agree. So I think that's the mindset I'm going to have moving forward. If I have a broad idea of something I'd like to build as a MOC in the future, maybe then I'll keep an eye out on the pab wall, or if I know there's a cool big new set coming out that I'm very excited about, I could keep that excitement rolling or make some, I don't know, supplementary content to that original content. Again, that video is on the channel now, you can watch it, and I'll build some extra little builds to go along with that larger build, you know? But again, if you have any advice about that question or any of the questions or just MOC building in general, please do leave a comment down below. Please let me know what you think about these fun little desert islands, and again, try to keep it positive, because it's all about encouraging each other to be better creators and to, I don't know, this is just another way for us to enjoy the hobby. And I honestly found much more enjoyment than I thought I would in this part of the hobby. Again, leave a comment down below. While you're there, be sure to like, subscribe, and tell your friends about Josh from Josh Builds Stuff. But you know, don't start with this video. This is, again, supplementary content to the bigger, more usual content. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you next time. I'm also now seeing the merit in keeping a large piece collection on hand, readily available, because I know that there's a common misspelling, mispronunciation of desert island as desert island, and I thought it'd be a lot of fun to play on that and have one of these little island environments created, but you know, entirely candy themed desert island. How fun would that be? But alas, I do not have a bunch of pieces on hand. But now I guess next time I'm at the pab wall, I'm gonna look out for a bunch of candy colors, bright pinks and whatnot. I guess that's why we buy LEGO Friends sets, right? For that colorful piece collection. Oh no, this is how it starts, isn't it?